Welcome to the transmission. We title this transmission, The Structure of Your Reality. Your reality is based on everything that is created is done so via thought form and thought projection outward from consciousness. The thought is created by your consciousness, your awareness, and therein we tell you, consciousness and awareness are what you are and who you are. The thought, whether it is a consciousness thought or not, a consciousness thought creates and manifests what you perceive as being your reality. Everything in existence, be it matter, form, event or circumstance, is created by consciousness, thought and belief, as belief creates thought. There is nothing else that can create other than conscious or unconscious thought. We tell you this, the thought of the earliest projections of consciousness created through the evolution of consciousness, everything that is in existence. The universe was created by a thought projected out into the universal field that began and created the entirety of the structure that you are aware and what you are not aware of. We say again, thought driven by consciousness, created by consciousness, conceived by consciousness, is the creator of all. Now, the physicality as you experience in your universe is a creation of consciousness utilizing available energy to manifest. Physicality is formed of matter, yet the physicality of all manifestations is created through the interaction of electromagnetic forces only, and nothing is truly physical.
Hi and welcome back. So when we talk about the structure of our reality, what the group were explaining to us is that everything in manifestation has to be first thought of before it comes into a consciousness reality. Now, the key point here to understand is that a conscious thought or a subconscious thought will have the same impact. So a thought is projected out from a desire of consciousness and projected out into the unified field. And it is that impetus, that first push of something going out into the unified field that brings into manifestation the desired outcome. So the group mentioned that our physical universe was first a thought. So let's explore where that thought came from. There is only one source of consciousness, one infinite, amorphous, omnipotent, omnipresent body, attractive energy and consciousness that permeates everything. So everything has been derived from that one source of consciousness, and we call that the Absolute. Now, for the Absolute to be able to experience itself, because it is everything, it projected a smaller aspect of its consciousness into a quarantined area of its infinite volume and allowed that individuated aspect of consciousness to develop in its own right. And this is what we call our source. And we call it our source because it is that consciousness entity that then created the physical universe as we know it, plus other universes that science cannot yet prove, yet they are there. So our source, again, a body of consciousness with energy, expressed out smaller versions of its consciousness to create our physical universe. So the structure of our reality is projections or aspects of consciousness values projected out or expressed out within the volume of source. Now, you may be picking up already then if everything that is physical is a projection of consciousness, that actually means that our physical universe, the galaxies, the celestial bodies, the planetary systems are all conscious in their own right. And it's important now to understand the values of consciousness. So if we look around our existence, look inside your house, you may have some animals, you may have some children, you may have a partner that you live with. Everybody within their framework has a different value of consciousness. So a human has a higher level of consciousness than what your family dog may have. The trees outside are also conscious, yet they have a different value structure to what a dog or a human would have. So there is a value structure, if you like, of different consciousness. And it is based on the value of the consciousness as to how aware the entity or the being actually is. So let's take again the household pet, a dog or a cat. So a dog or a cat absolutely have consciousness, as does everything else. But what they don't have is the self-awareness that a human would have. So they operate more under a collective consciousness, whereas you and I, we have what is called individuated consciousness. So we become aware of ourselves as what we perceive as a separate entity to what is around us. We have the ability to do something, to think about the past, think about the future, reflect on changes that we may want to make, and keep moving through our lives in that way. Now, a planetary system obviously doesn't do that, even though it is a conscious being. So our planet Earth is a conscious entity in its own right. And the other key point to understand here is for consciousness to create anything or bring something into manifestation, it needs to utilize energy that is available throughout the cosmos. So it is the consciousness that drives the energy to create the manifestation of the initial thought or desire of that value of consciousness. So if we now go back to our source that created our physical universe, which then in turn basically created a platform for other consciousness values to reside upon it and experience it. Just as there are different consciousness values, there are also different energetic values. So the energy that is available within a particular spatial location within source will determine the amount of consciousness that can be projected into that spatial location. So and I'll use Earth again as the example here. So on planet Earth, we have energy available to create manifestation. However, the energy values are low in terms of density. So the consciousness that can come down into this realm cannot be too powerful because it wouldn't be able to utilize the applicable energy that's available in this particular dimension. So the higher up the energy value, the higher up the consciousness value can be to manifest. So as we know, in this particular realm, in the earthly realm, we can create physical manifestations. As the dimensional values get higher and the energetic values get lighter and the consciousness value gets higher, manifestation can occur in a completely different way. Still manifesting, but manifesting immediately and into non-physical manifestations. But I will say right now, we do create non-physical manifestations, and you can call those events. So we draw to us certain things that happen in our lives based on the conscious or subconscious thoughts that we are projecting outwards. But this episode is talking about the structure of our reality. So the structure of our reality has been created from thought, and then it just explodes out. So one entity, as in source, created the platform for us or other consciousness values to be able to experience, and in our case it's a physical life. For our animals, although they're a different consciousness value, they are also experiencing the same physical universe and having their lives. The plant life, the elements, everything that we see is utilizing the physical plane to gain experience. It is just about an experience within certain dimensional frequencies and energy values. Now, the structure of source is from a very, very high vibrational value to a very low vibrational value. And we'll talk more about that when we really start delving into the dimensions, densities, and frequency bands. But just to understand the structure of our reality, we are existing in a very low frequential spin of energy, meaning only a very low portion of consciousness can play in this particular platform that has been created by Source to allow other values of consciousness to have an experience.
Further on the structure of your reality. The physical universe is located in a dense location within the available frequential locations compared to what we experience. We reside in a higher dimension of reality, therefore requiring less resistance when related to the earthly plane that you reside in. Less resistance as we are not of a physical nature and therefore are light bodies. The earthly realm is in a slow vibrational spin spatial location requiring the consciousness that is projected to be encased within a vehicle that you call the human body. All entities of a dense nature require a vehicle of a physical nature so others may perceive them and interact with them. This is not the only entities that exist in your realm, however. There are many others that you do not perceive. There are other Earths, other star systems, all located within the vicinity and taking up the same so-called space as you understand it. You, as a human, are not able to perceive these in this incarnation. The physicality of the universe that you can perceive with your current technology is minuscule in comparison to what actually exists. There are more Earths, many more star systems, many more universes that you are not aware of.
Now, the structure of our reality, as we've already mentioned, is different energetic values, different levels of consciousness being able to utilize the energy values within the location where they're projected into. So I now want to talk about the dimensions, the densities, and the frequency bands that exist right throughout the volume of our source. Now, the dimensions can be sort of describe the spatial location within the structure of source. And the density equates to the consciousness value that can be brought into the dimension. And then we have a thing called frequency bands. Now, it's the frequency bands that we can actually manipulate and be consciously aware of where our frequential vibration is within ourselves to jump up and down through the frequency bands. And this is pretty exciting once you understand how to do it. So consciousness generates energy and utilizes energy. When we are in a conscious state where we're very aware of the now moment, we're not projecting ourselves into the past or into the future, we can maintain a vibrational level that will actually project us into a different timeline, very similar to what we're existing in all the time. We don't notice the shifts, but there are differences in terms of what reality we're experiencing at any given time based on our frequential vibratory state. So within our dimension where we reside, there are different densities within that dimension, and there are numerous frequency bands within each density. And that's what we can play with. That's what we can be consciously aware of to shift our state, shift our experience, and shift our reality based on the frequential state that we are vibrating at any given time.